Please subscribe my channel and press the bell icon. Third volume of the 1727 edition of Plutarch's Lives of the Noble Greeks and Romans, printed by Jacob Tonson. A biography, or simply bio, is a detailed description of a person's life. It involves more than just the basic facts like education, work, relationships, and death. It portrays a person's experience of these life events. Unlike a profile or curriculum vitae resume, a biography presents a subject's life story, highlighting various aspects of his or her life, including intimate details of experience, and may include an analysis of the subject's personality. Biographical works are usually non-fiction, but fiction can also be used to portray a person's life. One in-depth form of biographical coverage is called legacy writing. Works in diverse media, from literature to film, form the genre known as biography. An authorized biography is written with the permission, cooperation, and at times, participation of a subject or a subject says. An autobiography is written by the person himself or herself, sometimes with the assistance of a collaborator or ghostwriter. Biographical writings were regarded merely as a subsection of history with a focus on a particular individual of historical importance. The independent genre of biography, as distinct from general history writing, began to emerge in the 18th century and reached its contemporary form at the turn of the 20th century. 1. Historical biography. Einhard described one of the earliest biographers was Cornelius Nepos, who published his work Excellentium Imperatorum Vitae, Lives of Outstanding Generals, in 44 BC. Longer and more extensive biographies were written in Greek by Plutarch, in his Parallel Lives, published about 80 AD. In this work famous Greeks appeared with famous Romans. For example, the orators Demosthenes and Cicero, or the generals Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar. Some 50 biographies from the work survive. Another well-known collection of ancient biographies is De Vita Caesarum, on the lives of the Caesars, by Suetonius, written about AD 121 in the time of the Emperor Hadrian. In the early Middle Ages, AD 400 to 1450, there was a decline in awareness of the classical culture in Europe. During this time, the only repositories of knowledge and records of the early history in Europe were those of the Roman Catholic Church. Hermits, monks, and priests used this historic period to write biographies. Their subjects were usually restricted to the church fathers, martyrs, popes, and saints. Their works were meant to be inspirational to the people and vehicles for conversion to Christianity. See hagiography. One significant secular example of a biography from this period is the life of Charlemagne by his courtier Einhard. In medieval Islamic civilization, c. AD 750 to 1258, similar traditional Muslim biographies of Muhammad and other important figures in the early history of Islam began to be written, beginning the prophetic biography tradition. Early biographical dictionaries were published as compendia of famous Islamic personalities from the 9th century onwards. They contained more social data for a large segment of the population than other works of that period. The earliest biographical dictionaries initially focused on the lives of the prophets of Islam and their companions, with one of these early examples being the Book of the Major Classes by Ibn Sa'd al-Baghdadi. And then began the documentation of the lives of many other historical figures, from rulers to scholars who lived in the medieval Islamic world. Biography. The sciences of psychology and sociology were ascendant at the turn of the 20th century and would heavily influence the new century's biographies. 5. The demise of the great man theory of history was indicative of the emerging mindset. Human behavior would be explained through Darwinian theories. Sociological biographies conceived of their subjects' actions as the result of the environment, and tended to downplay individuality. The development of psychoanalysis led to a more penetrating and comprehensive understanding of the biographical subject, and induced biographers to give more emphasis to childhood and adolescence. Clearly, these psychological ideas were changing the way biographies were written, as a culture of autobiography developed, in which the telling of one's own story became a form of therapy. 4. The conventional concept of heroes and narratives of success disappeared in the obsession with psychological explorations of personality. Eminent Victorians set the standard for 20th century biographical writing when it was published in 1918. British critic Lytton Strachey revolutionized the art of biographical writing with his 1918 work, Eminent Victorians, consisting of biographies of 4 leading figures from the Victorian era: Cardinal Manning, Florence Nightingale, Thomas Arnold, and General Gordon. 9. Strachey set out to breathe life into the Victorian era for future generations to read. Up until this point, as Strachey remarked in the preface, Victorian biographies had been as familiar as the cortege of the Undertaker, and wore the same air of slow, funereal barbarism. Strachey defied the tradition of 2 fat volumes of undigested masses of material, and took aim at the 4 iconic figures. His narrative demolished the myths that had built up around these cherished national heroes, whom he regarded as no better than a set of mouth-bungled hypocrites. The book achieved worldwide fame due to its irreverent and witty style, its concise and factually accurate nature, and its artistic prose. 10. In the 1920s and 30s, biographical writers sought to capitalize on Strachey's popularity by imitating his style. This new school featured iconoclasts, scientific analysts, and fictional biographers, and included Gamaliel Bradford, André Maurois, and Emile Ludwig, among others. Robert Graves, I. Claudius, 1934, stood out among those following Strachey's model of debunking biographies. The trend in literary biography was accompanied in popular biography by a sort of celebrity voyeurism. In the early decades of the century, this latter form's appeal to readers was based on curiosity more than morality or patriotism. By World War I, cheap hardcover reprints had become popular. The decades of the 1920s witnessed a biographical boom. The feminist scholar Carolyn Heilbrin observed that women's biographies and autobiographies began to change character during the second wave of feminist activism. She cited Nancy Milford's 1970 biography Zelda as the beginning of a new period of women's biography, because only in 1970 were we ready to read not that Zelda had destroyed Fitzgerald, but Fitzgerald her. He had usurped her narrative. Heilbrin named 1973 as the turning point in women's autobiography, with the publication of May Sarton's Journal of a Solitude, for that was the first instance where a woman told her life story, not as finding beauty even in pain, and transforming rage into spiritual acceptance, but acknowledging what had previously been forbidden to women: their pain, their rage, and their open admission of the desire for power and control over one's life. Media biography has become more popular than traditional literary forms. Along with documentary biographical films, Hollywood produced numerous commercial films based on the lives of famous people. The popularity of these forms of biography have led to the proliferation of TV channels dedicated to Biography, including A&E, the Biography channel, and the History channel. CD-ROM and online biographies have also appeared. Unlike books and films, they often do not tell a chronological narrative. Instead, they are archives of many discrete media elements related to an individual person, including video clips, photographs, and text articles. Biography portraits were created in 2001 by the German artist Ralph Uelzhofer. Media scholar Lev Manovich says that such archives exemplify the database form, allowing users to navigate the materials in many ways. 12 general, life writing techniques are a subject of scholarly study. 13. In recent years, debates have arisen as to whether all biographies are fiction, especially when authors are writing about figures from the past. President of Wolfson College at Oxford University, Hermione Lee argues that all history is seen through a perspective that is the product of our contemporary society, and as a result, biographical truths are constantly shifting. So the history biographers write about will not be the way that it happened. It will be the way they remembered it. 14. Debates have also arisen concerning the importance of space in life writing. 15. Daniel R. Meister in 2017 argues that biography studies is emerging as an independent discipline, especially in the Netherlands. This Dutch school of biography is moving biography studies away from the less scholarly life writing tradition and towards history by encouraging its practitioners to utilize an approach adapted from microhistory. A research method that collects and analyzes a person's whole life, or portion of a life, through the in-depth and unstructured interview, or sometimes reinforced by semi-structured interview or personal documents. 17. It is a way of viewing social life in procedural terms, rather than static terms. The information can come from oral history, personal narrative, biography and autobiography, or diaries, letters, memoranda and other materials. 18. The central aim of biographical research is to produce rich descriptions of persons or conceptualize structural types of actions, which means to understand the action logics or how persons and structures are interlinked. 19. This method can be used to understand an individual's life within its social context or understand